Real video games have violence, blood, and have complicated controls, otherwise the game isn't cool. Yeah, let's teach kindergartners algebra and show them All Quiet on the Western Front. See how that turns out. Hello and welcome to Q's Retro Perspective. By now, casual video games have been mostly accepted by society, but for a while there, being a casual gamer subjected you to the worst prejudice in history. I have been legally advised to stop there. But the Wii was about when the concept of a casual and more advanced balance of games became an accepted concept. Doesn't mean you aren't going to get mugged because of it, though. Give me your wallet! I own a Zeebo. Whoa. To me, casual gaming doesn't always have to use motion controls. They just have to have a simple control scheme. Which by that logic means every 2600 game in existence counts. But, if we narrow it down further to immediately understandable / trying to emulate real life scenarios games, that still leaves a good amount of games. So we're arbitrarily deciding that these games count. Why aren't we talking about the Magnavox Odyssey before this? Well, first, stop asking questions. Second, I don't have one. Pong is definitely a timeless classic. Why? Because it's so simple a moose could play it. Don't believe me? Here's audio from my last zoo trip. Sir, please step out of the moose enclosure. Set down the Atari and back away from the moose. You can't stop me! I'm no longer allowed at the zoo. There really is no other way to describe Pong than Pong. It's 2D table tennis. Turn the dial right, move on-screen paddle up. Turn the dial left, move paddle down. Red button gets new ball. The only other things to worry about are not using all 5 balls too soon and winning at all costs. It's hard to classify Breakout in terms of genre. Is it a sports game? The manual doesn't really mention it, but the cover will try its best to convince you. Is it a puzzle game? I mean, there's colorful blocks, but which ultimately means Breakout is its own fun thing. The modes consist of 1-player, 2-player where you take turns, rudimentary 3-player where people are on teams taking turns, and the same goes for the 4-player mode. All of which are the same basic Breakout action, but there is an invisible mode where the wall of bricks is invisible, but every time you hit a brick, the wall lights up for a short time, which is a cool idea. Super Breakout is the same old, but with even more game modes. This time, the game is definitely set in space. No, it's not. The fun new game modes are Standard Breakout, 1 or 2 players, you take turns in 2 players like in the last game. Double, where the only difference is there are 2 paddles and 2 balls. Cavity has 2 holes in the brick wall with extra balls that come into play when you release them. It too has 2 paddles. Progressive Breakout goes back to 1 paddle and 1 ball, but as you destroy more bricks, more move towards the bottom. There are also easy versions of the main modes for children or beginners. So ultimately, Super Breakout is the first Breakout, but better, and with way more variety. Gambling for the whole family! Weirdly enough, even though the game is called Casino, which implies it has various games you would find at a casino, it's just a few card games. Those few being Blackjack, Stud Poker, and Poker Solitaire. The inclusion of a version of Solitaire, whether that version be intended for gambling or not, really solidifies this as a casual game. I mean, my mom plays Solitaire on her tablet. I didn't really understand how to play any of these though, because go figure, I'm not a big gambler. The other reasons being that the graphics aren't exactly detailed and the fact that these games take a little bit of time to learn, and I didn't have time. I only had a PDF of the manual and confusion. I don't really know why they didn't include some basic form of roulette or slots in a game titled Casino. I know that the 2600 couldn't really do circles, but I can think of one shape that could work. Or slots, that's just 3 columns with flickering images. If it was a storage issue, did we really need 3 card games? If it was graphical limitations, was it really? Well, that's enough complaining about a game from the 70s, let's move into board game territory. It's Nintendo's first video board game. I find some video board games to be a little bit too complicated to still be casual. Mario Party games are a good example of this, there's so much work involved. You've got to read the minigame instruction, you've got to figure out how many players the minigame is, you've also got to keep the goal of getting stars in mind, while the game can potentially take so long that you need a save file for a board game, while others don't seem to take enough advantage of being a video game. A good few of the Monopoly console games are good examples of this, but I feel Anticipation is just the right mix of video game and board game. The best way to describe anticipation is if Pictionary and Trivial Pursuit were mushed together, which is a good thing because my previous attempts have failed. You move around on a colorful board a few spaces at a time, getting various different categories.
Standard board gaming.
But when you land on a space, the computer makes a drawing. And you've got to race with the next player to guess what it is. The longer you wait, the less spaces you'll move, which could be a good thing depending on what color you want to land on. That's the other fun part about this game. Once you get one of every color right, you ascend. Once you finish 3 boards first, you're the winner. There are the standard NES limitations. You can only play with up to 2 real players and 2 computer players, unless you buy a 4-score, then you can get 3 players, even though there's 4 player slots. You also can't pick your piece. First player is always high heels and second player is always trumpet, so on. But I think I look good in heels anyways.
But once you're done beating up the other player because they won, what's a great game to relax with?
Why, Tetris, of course. Puzzle games are probably the most famous type of casual game. Anybody can enjoy a puzzle game. Tetris, Candy Crush, those tile matching games that have a million versions, Our Lord and Savior, Pile-O Fruits, you get the point. I don't think Tetris needs an introduction. It's so widespread that there is just an actual official free version of Tetris on Tetris's official website. And they made a free version for mobile devices. Then what is this for? And this! And this! And this! Out of all available options, I feel Tetris on NES isn't the worst thing in the world, but it isn't the best Tetris. There isn't an option for multiplayer.
Which is the main reason I got it.
I usually put some basic research into a game I want, but it's Tetris. I thought 2 ports, 2 players. But other than that little hindrance, it's Tetris. Fill the rows and feel the stress explode away as the blocks disappear.
But there was a place where puzzle games thrived.
Back when cell phones looked like this and carrying an entire library of NES games wasn't nearly as easy, the Game Boy was your only solution. The 2 major puzzle games on the Game Boy seemed to be Dr. Mario and Tetris. Dr. Mario takes the color matching fun of the NES game and puts it in black and white. It's not horrible, there's a good enough distinction between white, black, and speckled gray. It's suitable for the time, or a well-lit road trip, but Tetris on the other hand...
It's good!
No, it's great! The black and white color palette isn't a hindrance, as you're filling rows, not matching colors. This truly is a game you can get lost in, whether it be on the couch, in the back of a van on your way to get free candy, anywhere! Another variety of casual games are those that replicate a game show. Everybody knows game shows, so why not play them at home? Put the Wheel of Fortune studio in your own home. Win a car! Don't win a car! I've already talked about Wheel of Fortune on Genesis rather in depth for what it is before. Why?
Because I can do anything I want.
It's Wheel of Fortune, and a good rendition of it at that. And they somehow fit 4,500 unique puzzles in this thing, meaning you won't get bored soon. I'm getting through these games fast.
It's almost like casual games weren't meant to be in-depth experiences.
There is one casual series that will live on for the rest of time. Yep, that's right. Yoshi will be here in the nuclear fallout. I think one of the easiest game series to get into is Mario Kart. It's goofy little guys riding in goofy little carts on goofy little tracks. The controls are either a few buttons or literally just steering a car. Super Mario Kart is not the best in the series and can be a little difficult at times, but it's still a simple, fun multiplayer experience, and it really shows off the SNES's power while being so simple. Huh. Tetris, but better, and with multiplayer. Huh. Dr. Mario, but better.
Huh.
Goofy little guys riding in goofy little carts on goofy little tracks. In 3D.
Huh. Oh, thank goodness.
The Wii was probably best known for its casual gaming focus. There were definitely games made for a more advanced audience, but come on, take a hint. Wii Sports is probably the most famous casual game. It came bundled with a console that is one of the highest selling consoles of all time. It came with really simple games like tennis, but also slightly more complicated games like golf. And the elderly love golf! And... talking about obsolete media.
Wait.
It got such great reception that they decided to make a sequel that was arguably more complicated and less newcomer friendly. But I've seen people pick up Wii Sports Resort Archery faster than flick the remote tennis.
Huh.
And they released even more casually or casual games. We Play is just a collection of minigames, all of which use the pointer, and or are spiritual successors to old games. Or our Cow Race, which doesn't fit in at all and feels like it belongs in the more complicated casual game.
Huh.
And that was apparently so popular, it got a sequel, more heavily based around motion, to a point where it was in the name. The pointer controls were still heavily used in a game called We Play Motion.
Huh.
Even games like Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz could be considered partly casual games in the Wii era. While the story mode was definitely for more experienced players, there were 50 party games in contrast to the 3 in the original on GameCube. And all the games are either bad, clones of Wii series games, or are actually good, but not as fleshed out as they could be in a less crowded environment. Or just flat out complicated and not at all friendly to the clearly casual audience they were trying to pull in with many of these party games.
Huh.
But years later, a true balance has been found and casual games can coexist with more advanced games. Mario Kart 8, originally on the Wii U but ported to Switch, is probably the best installment in the franchise. It adds cool anti-gravity play and hyper-detailed courses with rather expansive selections of pieces for customizable karts, while also having the biggest course selection of any Mario Kart game as of the DLC for the Switch version, which ultimately makes it far less casual friendly, alienating some older players.
Huh.
But the Wii Sports series is back with a brand new game, Nintendo Switch Sports, which is a good game, but adds a soccer game that is rather difficult to immediately understand, unlike the other games in the selection, and the game highly emphasizes the online multiplayer, which isn't easily understandable by the target audience for a Wii Sports game.
Casual game means nothing.
There are casual games that are meant to get everybody from young children to the elderly to exercise more, being released as free bonuses with online play subscriptions, something neither demographic usually has. There are series widely known to never make non-casual friendly games releasing Battle Royale versions, and VR games. Almost every game in the Atari 2600 library could be considered casual games by today's standards.
The term casual game has no meaning. There's no real way to classify an easy game. Somebody might excel at fighters, but suck at kart racers.
2D platformers are generally pretty easy, but somebody might find that difficult because they only ever played Atari before. There's no point in classifying video games or video game players as casual or hardcore.
I definitely don't play games competitively or take playing them all too seriously, but I definitely play mature games.
There is no such thing as a casual game, just a lighthearted or simpler game.
No video game is worse than another because it doesn't have as much action or doesn't look as nice. A video game is a video game. The only thing that determines its quality or status is how much fun you had with it and how much care was put into it.